Hello, welcome to Casualty Connect, our video series at the intersection between artificial intelligence and the property and casualty insurance industry. I am Frank Giaoui, the founder and CEO of Optimalex, and today with me is Tim Padovese. Hi, Tim.
Hey, Frank.
Tim, you recently retired after 22 years as a CEO of OMIC, the ophthalmic mutual insurance company, and you are now working with the board at the Mutual RRG, the insurance company that focuses on emergency medical facilities across the US. For full disclosure, Tim was the CEO of OMIC when they hired Optimalex and onboarded Agatha, driven by Ryan Buxey, their chief claims officer. And
Yeah.
today's conversation will be on the evolution of the medical professional liability insurance market. Medical professional liability is sometimes referred as MedMal. So, Tim, my first question for you will be the following. The MPL insurance market has been consolidating slowly. Even over the last 10 years, there are still less than 50% or 60% of the market on the top 20 companies. Operational efficiency remains a challenge. And my first question for you will be, how do you believe insurance companies can use AI to solve or at least partially solve this issue?
Yeah. Great first question, Frank. I'd say first is to really focus on the process automation and really AI-driven workflow. Optimization, I always struggle with that word, to reduce the administrative overhead. So freeing up time for claim staff is paramount for them to focus on resolving claims quickly. So in the instance of OMIC, for example, um, you know, there are hundreds of claims that come in every year, and this product we found very early on did just that, allowed us to resolve some claims quickly. Second part of that I think about is really claims processing is a major area where the technology delivers efficiency gains, mainly by identifying early on your riskiest claims, obtaining like statistical and predictive insights into claims. So in Omic's case, and there are a lot of medical professional liability med-mal carriers that are in every state across the country. And this product helps identify the riskiest claims, and you can put resources into play immediately to start addressing the riskiest claims. And I think that's critical.
Thank you, Tim. So let's go now into the detail of the role you think AI should play in the MPL insurance industry, really as an operational tool. How would you describe it?
AI should primarily act as an enhancer, not a replacer for underwriting and claims and risk assessment. You know, early on, as we were incorporating that into really the workflow and the process, we realized the AI generated claims product is really a new tool for every risk assessor, claims processor. It's another tool in their toolbox. Doesn't necessarily drive all the decisions, but it's become very quickly a critical tool in their toolbox. I think predictive models overall help identify high risks. We were talking about that earlier, uh, and 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 your high risk claims need more attention immediately. So, working with the board in so many of the medical professional liability cases where physicians play a critical role in claims, and most of them or many of them are on your board. You can allow for kind of more proactive mitigation strategies, working with your attorneys. I think that's really important. And again, there are a lot of medical professional liability companies that rate nationwide. So I think this tool, especially in the claims area for OMIC, we found very early on was a critical product.
All right. So there are predictive analytics tools today integrating, what we call Gen AI or large language modeling. How do you see this impacting the MPL insurance?
I'd say, claims evaluations will become faster and more precise as Gen AI can summarize very complex medical and legal documents instantly. Uh, it can also spot inconsistencies. So when you step back for a second and you just take one claim and one claim, whether you're just doing ophthalmology or you're doing, all the multi specialties, they are complex.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of data in there that you really need to kind of pull forward at a very quick pace. And I think that these products, Gen AI, can really help summarize and play a more important role. It does. Another thing is like fraud detection will improve, cross-checking of medical records, billing data, just claims histories in general. And then the newer products that are really rolling out with underwriters have AI generated risk assessment, incorporating real time data from litigation trends, looking at physicians' performance, claim severity patterns. I mean, there's a lot going on there as an underwriter and as a claims person. It just being able to pull all that information together. And then when you're communicating with your physicians and attorneys and stuff, it just helps pull it all together. And I think will and is already and will, as it grows and continues to learn, just allow you to make better decisions and reach better conclusions.
Yeah, you used, I think, in our past discussion, a great word. I think you said it's a great tool for fact-based shared decision making, right?
Absolutely.
And so
And
now, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead, please.
No, I was just going to say, the whole fact based. So, especially when you're working with physicians, they're scientists and they look for data and they look for facts. And then have the ability to take a step back, evaluate that data, and help, then go forward to make the right decision. And so I think the more data you have, the more identification you have working with, attorneys, I think you make better decisions.
Right, right. That makes sense. So, Tim, in AI, there is a technology component, and we have talked about it. There is efficiency, etc. But there are also some human behavior, maybe sometimes emotional behavior, skepticism. How is the role of a leader for the change management aspect of it? So, as a CEO, you were, of course, interacting with the board and interacting with the management, and now you have more of the board vision. How is the role of the CEO between the board and the management for the change management matter?
Well, I think this is a new and very quickly evolving uh, product and really approach to the business. And so I think every leader, whether you are the CEO working with your management or CEO and claims and underwriting executives working with the board, or in my new role, working more from a board perspective, I think all organizations really need to set a clear AI strategy. Leaders must, define how AI aligns with business goals and stakeholder expectations. But I will tell you, that's a difficult process because it's so new. It's new. You can turn on the news, and every day there's something about AI, and this company's going to AI. You know, companies are downsizing, but they're going to grow their AI. So this is really an exploding operation. And I think what insurance companies are trying to do is how can they interface all of the AI into their daily, as well as kind of define long-term value of where this product is going. I think it also helps foster a culture of innovation. So, everyone likes to be innovative. Insurance not necessarily been at the top of the curve when it comes to innovation, but I think encouraging teams to explore the AI driven efficiencies can really accelerate the adoption. Uh, and anytime you introduce a new product, there tends to be a little bit of a pushback, a little bit of skepticism, like, I don't know if this is going to
Right.
be right for me. But I think really pushing these products and this new way to look at your business, I think is going to be a winner for everyone. Last, I think in that this whole area is really prioritize the collaboration. I mean, you need to get vendors involved with the board. In the Omics case, we did that early on, even before we finalized the product. Your team and got very engaged with our senior leadership at the board, so they understood where we wanted to go. And I think getting that buy-in early on and then moving forward was a real winner for Omic, and I think other companies can do that as well.
So, Tim, before concluding on the looking ahead for the future, I would like to ask you an extension to the previous question. Essentially, what you described is how a leader has to lead efficiently and implement a low risk change management, right? It is a change of behavior. And as a CEO for more than 20 years, you probably had experience of several of those change of behavior that you had to lead, right? AI is the most
Absolutely.
recent one, but what comparison could you make with previous changes in the past history of the MPL industry, for instance?
Well, I think early on, I can remember, we had serious structural issues when I became CEO, now almost 23 years ago. Well, 22 years of Omic, but, I've been gone almost a year. But we had structural changes that I felt we had to make. And so education of the board, education of management, and then integrating those changes, I think, were critical. And sometimes they take a while. I can think of restructuring underwriting, restructuring claims, restructuring risk management, getting everyone to buy in and support. And we all made those decisions together. And there are other we did massive uh, uh, I don't want to say explosion, but growing our business nationwide. And so going into new territories, and how do you do that? And you just don't turn the switch on day one. You need to identify the market there. You need to identify your venues and the claims potential in those areas. You need to identify behavior that can be different in one jurisdiction to the other, and then working with the board to then ultimately coming up with the right decisions, working with our consultants, whether it's actuary or reinsurers. I mean, there's always a lot of pieces that have to fit in order to implement change. AI being the most recent, those pieces have to fit. So working with the board, working with management, seeing how that all ties together, working with our IT folks, I think is really an important element to kind of implementing change.
Thank you, Tim. I think this was very important before going now to the future and coming back to AI. So, how do you see AI shaping the MPL insurance in the next 2, 3 years and maybe decade?
Well, as we talked about, first of all, AI, in my opinion, in the MPL, MedMal, property casualty area is really in its infancy stages. It is early on. Um, but I'd say, first of all, from an assisted claims resolution, from reporting to closing, I think will shorten life cycles because you'll be able to identify early, for example, some more riskier claims that you may put more resources on to generate a shorter life cycle to close that earlier. But I think most important is really the quality of the claims by liberating kind of more time for adjusters to really focus on those. So as an adjuster, you typically handled, depending on the complexity of your book, or between 75 and 100 claims that you're constantly working. We're seeing that that number can go up because maybe half or even two-thirds of those claims don't require as much attention as that other third. And that's where you really kind of can put your resources at work and bring in your team of experts, and move that from the back burner to the front burner early on in the process. Because I think we all know as claims fester, they can become more and more critical and your outcomes can be less and less. So getting on a more difficult claim early on, I think, is absolutely critical. I think, if you look at like AI powered litigation tools will help insurers, anticipate verdict trends, especially, optimize your whole defense strategy. So there are some places where the venues are more, adversarial against insurance companies. That's where you might need to put more resources. There are some parts of the country that are more understanding of defense and understanding of medicine. So I think you're just going to have to balance that. So I think self-learning AI agents will gradually handle more, I'd say administrative and analytical tasks, creating an even leaner operational structure. So as I was saying, if whatever the number is, if your claims folks have been handling here, they will over time be able to handle more just because of the ability for AI to really help their management of their daily book. So handling more with the same resources, fact-based shared decision making with board, with your attorneys, understanding your market better. I see it's nothing but growing in the future.
That's fascinating. Thank you very much, Tim. So today our distinguished guest speaker was Tim Padovese, and this is Casualty Connect, our video series about AI and the MPL industry. Thank you and see you soon.
Thank you, Frank.